All right. I won't talk too much, but I'll say what I need to say. Expand on what they say, and if they don't say what I think they should say, then I'll say that. But to start off with, this is a quite significant launch. It's for the Air Force and NASA and various other people.
You're looking at a live view of the Falcon Heavy on historic launch pad
The center core,
39A
which you can see
at
right
Kennedy
here,
Space Center, awaiting liftoff at 2:30 a.m. local time. Welcome
is
to
going.
our live webcast of the Falcon
It's
Heavy
going to be
Space
landing
Test
or
Program
attempting to
2
land
mission,
very,
or
very
STP-2,
far
from
downrange.
SpaceX headquarters in
1,200
Hawthorne,
kilometers.
California. My name is Alex Siegel,
There's a very good
and
chance
I'm
it
a
won't come
material
back.
planner here at SpaceX. I'm excited to be here with you today, along
Alright,
with
let's
my
listen to this,
co-hosts,
guys.
bringing you coverage of the third launch of Falcon Heavy, this one for the U.S. Air Force.
And I'm Jessie Anderson. I'm a lead manufacturing engineer here at SpaceX. Tonight's mission is a rideshare mission and marks the first Department of Defense launch on Falcon Heavy, the world's most powerful operational rocket by a factor of 2. It will be among the most challenging launches in SpaceX history. We will be delivering 24 satellites to space with 20 distinct separation events for 13 partners. There will be 4 separate upper stage MVAC-D engine burns, 3 separate deployment orbits, a final propulsive passivation maneuver, and a total mission duration of over 6 hours. But that's not all. As with our previous Falcon Heavy missions, our 3 boosters will undergo 3 separation events and 3 landing attempts. There will be a lot of activity happening all at once over the course of the next 4 hours as we deploy all 24 payloads.
It's also worth noting that tonight's mission will be our longest satellite launch to date, with a total duration of over 6 hours, as Jessie just mentioned. We are pushing the capabilities of Falcon Heavy this evening to demonstrate the vehicle's full potential, which is why it's longer than normal. The launch window this evening is 4 hours long, and we are currently tracking towards the end of that window. If we're unable to launch tonight, our backup window opens up tomorrow, Tuesday, June 25th, at the same time. We're currently at T-minus 17 minutes.
I'm just going to say right now, I'm not going the whole launch. I'm not going the full 6 hours.
Let's take a closer look at the rocket. Falcon Heavy is essentially 3 Falcon 9 rockets strapped together, which means it can carry a much larger payload, not only to Earth orbit, but to the Moon and Mars. Like Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy is a 2-stage launch vehicle. The big difference is that the Falcon Heavy's first stage is comprised of 3 cores, and the Falcon 9 only has 1. Each one of these cores has 9 Merlin 1D engines, making for a total of 27 overall. Altogether, the engines produce 5 million pounds of thrust, equal to 18 747s at takeoff. In fact, the engines produce so much power that we don't run them all at full thrust all at once until after liftoff. For the mission today, the center core is brand new, but the 2 side boosters were previously flown in April on Arabsat 6A Falcon Heavy mission.
Aside the nose cones as well. At least one of the nose cones was used
Now, during ascent, Falcon Heavy
from the
will
first
throttle
Falcon
its
Heavy
thrust
launch
up and down and on both
on
side
Arabsat.
boosters in the center core to balance aerodynamic and structural loads on the vehicle. About 70% through the first stage's burn, the 2 side boosters will separate and come back to Earth for simultaneous landings at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station on Landing Zone 1 and Landing Zone 2. At this point, the mission will proceed just like a standard Falcon 9 flight. The center core will keep firing for another minute, then will perform a standard stage separation from the second stage. We will attempt to land the center core on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, which is currently stationed about 650 nautical miles off the coast of Florida in the Atlantic Ocean. It's worth mentioning that for this mission, bringing back the center core will be more challenging than usual, as our booster will be coming in extra hot, and our drone ship is positioned almost double the normal distance from land.
This is going to be the hardest landing I've ever attempted.
Given this distance, we may not receive any video of landing. Now, if we are able to land all 3 cores tonight, it will be a particularly exciting achievement. The second stage is exactly the same as any other Falcon 9 flight. Tonight, the second stage will move through 4 different orbits in order to deliver the payloads on this mission. The first and second are low Earth orbit,
kit,
or LEO.
I should say. That's the
third
correct
is a
terminology.
transfer orbit, and
Which
the
enables
final
it to
is
be
medium Earth orbit, or MEO.
which helps it stay
Speaking
alive
of
on
those
orbit for
satellites,
extended periods of
all
time. In this
24
case,
of them
like
are
6+
safely
hours.
enclosed inside of the 17-foot diameter payload fairing, which is the pointed structure on the very top of the rocket.
I can
This
see a
protects
star
the
there,
payload from
or a planet
aerothermal
maybe.
loads, heating, and contamination during ascent.
Something there.
Once we reach the vacuum of space, we no longer need them, so we will jettison the fairing as the second stage continues on its journey to orbit. We will be attempting to recover the fairing pieces tonight with our recovery vessel, Miss Tree, formerly known as Mr. Steven. Our hope is to catch one of the fairing pieces in the ship's nets and recover the other piece from the water. If we are not successful with our catch attempt, Miss Tree will recover both pieces from the water. Let's check in on how the countdown is going.
It's T-minus 14 minutes, 10
John
seconds and counting
Innsbrucker.
down. Good evening. I'm John Innsbrucker, the Falcon Principal Integration Engineer at SpaceX. Now we are at T-minus 14 minutes from the launch of the Falcon Heavy, and all systems
This guy's
are
a
go for
meme.
launch on the half hour. Falcon Heavy rolled out to the pad with the payload
Oh, look at that.
27 hours ago and went vertical about 7 hours later. Now we did have a ground hydraulic issue early in the count, but it was fixed, and currently everything is go. We cleared the pad deck at T-minus 9 hours to begin hazardous operations, and just before we began the webcast, the SpaceX launch director pulled the 9 members of the launch team. You can see the firing room at Kennedy Space Center. We pulled the team, got to go for propellant loading and launch. Now we're currently loading propellant on all 3 first stage boosters and the second stage. Now we load 2 propellants on the Falcon Heavy.
Excuse me.
One is liquid oxygen called LOX. No oxygen is in space to support combustion, so we have to bring our own. We chill it to get it as dense as we can in order to maximize how much we load. The second propellant is our fuel, RP1. That's essentially a purified kerosene. Now these 2 propellants have a long history of usage. The Saturn V first stage, flown from this very pad on the moon missions 50 years ago, used LOX and kerosene. Now for the satellites on tonight's flight, everything is go. The last transfer to internal power is coming up in just half a minute. Other than that, the spacecraft teams here at the Cape are monitoring data as we proceed to T0. And I expect a lot of satellite builders and operators are anticipating getting data from space with a lot of enthusiasm. Now we're launching out of the Eastern Range, supported by Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. The range is currently go. They're prepared to support today's mission. They're making sure that the sea space, the airspace is cleared. No one's nearby to get in the way of tonight's
Lights on in the
launch.
crew access arm.
They're also releasing balloons, which brings up the question of how's the weather? The good news is the weather is looking very good. Ground level winds are acceptable. Upper altitude winds are also acceptable. Now, as Alex mentioned, we started the day with a 4-hour window. However, now that we are into LOX loading, we don't have the ability to hold the countdown. Falcon Heavy is 3 rockets counting down at the same time. We need so much liquid oxygen that we would have to scrub tonight in order to use the backup date tomorrow at the same opening of the window time, 11:30 p.m. Eastern. Now, if you followed the SpaceX webcast in the past, you've probably heard me remind everyone that launch is hard. Well, that goes double tonight, as we're going to fly the most demanding mission profile for a Falcon rocket ever. So the SpaceX team has their conservative dial set at 11 and stands ready to take time to look into anything out of the norm. Now, as the energy from the team gathering below me outside of the control center is growing, we are go at T-minus 10 minutes and 51 seconds.
As we mentioned earlier, tonight's launch
there's a very good
is
chance
US
that
Air
this
Force
is
and is a rideshare
been
mission
another
with 24
attempt.
satellites. The mission involves the largest number of government agencies we've had as mission partners, including the Air Force, the Naval Academy, NASA, NOAA, and the Taiwan Space Agency. The specific agency inside the Air Force responsible for overseeing tonight's mission is the Space and Missile Systems Center, or SMC. Let's get some more details about what the agency does and is responsible for.
Alright, that's just a video. You can watch that.
What is SMC? SMC stands for Space and Missile Systems Center, but that's just a name. Who we are, what we do, it's much more than just a name. We're the dedicated men and women who develop, acquire, field and sustain cutting-edge space experiments and operational satellites. Our mission: deliver resilient and affordable space capabilities. What does that mean? It means we enhance military communication systems, acquire next-generation GPS satellites, develop advanced remote sensing and service capabilities, field cutting-edge rocket systems, modernize the United States satellite control structure, create never-before-seen technology, and deliver sustained, unrivaled space superiority for our nation. Let's face it, the world's changing. Along with it, SMC is changing to ensure the United States remains the vanguard of space capability and scientific understanding. We dubbed our aggressive and innovative new approach to the way we work SMC 2.0. That means speed, to quickly implement the best solutions to new problems. Partnerships, to forge the relationships necessary for the mutual benefit of the U.S. and our international allies. Innovation, to capitalize on the most advanced cutting-edge technology in the world. Culture, to inspire the necessary risk-taking that will propel us into the future. And enterprise, to share our vision of accelerated and affordable space systems for the Department of Defense. Initially founded in 1954 to develop the first intercontinental ballistic missile, SMC has produced unprecedented and unparalleled national defense space technology for over 60 years. During this time, we've been called upon to support manned space, anti-satellite, and missile defense programs while continuously increasing our space capability. That's where we came from. But a more important question
What even is
where
this?
are we going? Humans have always been explorers. We venture to discover that which is unknown. At SMC, we push the boundaries of the known and fight every single day to enhance our technological capabilities, launching past
Like, I don't want to say it's propaganda, because that's not even
to the
accurate.
high frontier, and we are building
It's
the
like a
future
recruitment
of
video.
space.
The SpaceX team continues to count down for launch for the nighttime launch of Falcon Heavy. I remember watching the night launch of Saturn V on the Apollo 17 mission in December 1972. And
We get it,
turned
John,
night
you're
into
old.
day. We're expecting the same tonight from 27 Merlin engines. We're currently at T-minus 7 minutes, 28 seconds and counting. Fuel loading is continuing. We're about to wrap up fuel loading on the 3 first-stage boosters over the next minute. Liquid oxygen loading
Engine
is
chill back
continuing.
again.
That'll wrap up between 3
Engine
and 2
chill is
minutes
when they
before
pump
liftoff on
liquid
all the
oxygen into the
stages.
engines to cool it
We've had to
down.
report the last satellite has
Maybe
gone
actually I
on
think it's liquid
internal
nitrogen
power
into
just
the
a
engines
moment
to cool
ago.
it down so
Everything's
that
looking good on
they
the satellites. Now, a
don't go into
major
shock
activity
when the
coming
liquid
up
oxygen
here in
hits them,
another 2.5
and
minutes
you have
is
develop
retract
microfractures
of
that could
the
become
strongback. We'll see
issue
the clamps
when
open
the
up around the
engine
second
ignites
stage.
and all the
strongback
pressure
will recline about
is
2
there.
degrees in preparation for launch. We're also just inside T-minus 7 minutes. We've begun chilling in the 27
I actually remember I walked back at that
Merlin
liquid
1B
nitrogen
engines.
thing. I don't think that's right.
Now, a lot's going to happen
I think it's just
in the
liquid
first 4
oxygen.
minutes of flight of the Falcon Heavy. We'll first light the 2 side boosters and then the center core. The flight computer on Falcon Heavy will check the power on all the engines, then command a release from the ground hold downs at T0, so we lift off at T-minus 0. Right after we lift off, we're at full power of over 5.1 million pounds of thrust. 40 seconds into flight, we decrease power on the 2 side boosters in preparation for maximum aerodynamic loads on the vehicle. Once we get through this period, Falcon Heavy will throttle back up to power on the 2 side boosters. We now are 2 minutes into flight, and we're again reducing thrust on the 2 side boosters. This time it's to decrease forces on the rocket structure, especially that structure that holds the side boosters to the center core. The acceleration is building every second as we burn propellant and we're lightening the rocket. So we need to throttle down the side boosters by physically turning off engines to keep the loads below the maximum allowable.
Really?
2.5 minutes into flight, we fully turn off the side boosters, called BECO, Booster Engine Cutoff. Then we'll
They're gonna
use
turn engines
high-pressure
off.
gas
I don't think they've ever
separation
done that
system
before.
that's mounted on the top and bottom of the center core. That'll unlock the 2 side boosters and push them away. Now, once we clear the side boosters, the center core will throttle up to full power and burn another minute. Finally,
Turning engines off like that is nothing new. Saturn V did it in the first and second stages, but I don't think they've ever done that for a Falcon Heavy launch.
Now, from this point on, It's like a Falcon 9 mission, other than we do happen to have 3 first-stage rockets returning to Earth at both Cape Canaveral and the drone ship. Meanwhile, on the way into orbit, the fairing will separate. The second-stage engine will undergo a series of 4 burns, eventually delivering all 24 satellites to their intended orbits. Now, it's a demanding sequence of events for the Falcon Heavy tonight.
Still 1080p. This doesn't look like it.
From this point on, everything is looking good. We're at 4.5 minutes. We're getting ready to recline the strongback. So let's watch and listen to the final countdown.
Alright, so not really sure what to talk about. We covered everything. So something interesting that I didn't think anyone talked about is that the since the center core is going to be going so far down range, it's actually going to land after the second station shuts off and inserts an orbit. Like a good 2 minutes after that. Actually, well, like 5 minutes after that, I think. Well, actually, 3 minutes, I think, because I think it lands at 11 minutes after launch, and booster engine or the second engine cutoff starts at happens at 8 minutes, somewhere around there.
And positive Y lock slow does close out.
It's like 3 minutes after the second stage shuts down.
Strong back lowers closed out.
Let's see, anything else that's interesting? Yeah, the orbits that they're going to. So the reason this is on a Falcon Heavy in the first place is that, well, first of all, they need to qualify a Falcon Heavy to launch spy satellites and things like that. Second is that the payload is going to a bunch of different orbits, like 3 or 4 different orbits, which takes a lot of rocket power to do from the second stage. And in order for the second stage to have that power, you need to exert it all from the first stage, in which case the Falcon 9 isn't enough. You need to have a Falcon Heavy.
And vehicles on internal power.
Alright, so 2 minutes left. I'm gonna go silent here and we can wait for the launch.
And stage 2 lock slow is closed out.
I don't know if you can see that, but out of the water tower here, a bunch of water came out. Interesting. I don't remember exactly why that happens, but
And the vehicles will start up.
it's something to do with priming the water systems, water deluge systems for the water that comes out of the Rainbirds here. That
This is the mission director. Go for launch.
go for launch and mission director. Nice. Alright. Be quiet one more time.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Hopefully they make it in one piece. Final count.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Lift off. And we can't see anything. Oh my god, that went.
Vehicle's pitching downrange.
T plus 25 seconds into flight under the thrust of over 5 million pounds. Falcon Heavy is headed to space. We're getting ready to throttle down for passing through the period of maximum dynamic pressure.
He inhaled some helium towards the end there.
Bucket for side core. We're through max Q.
Jesus. Already through max Q.
Vehicle is supersonic.
Everything continuing to look good on the Merlin 1D engines. We're throttling back up on the side boosters to full power. A minute 15 seconds into flight. Performance looks nominal. Currently, the next event coming up in about 2 minutes. We'll hear call out of chill-in of the MVAC-D engine. That allows liquid oxygen to the top of the turbo pump to get the second stage engine ready to chill for ignition in just a couple of minutes.
Now he said they were going to shut engines off, so watch for that. You see the engines there. Watch to see if any of them turn off.
Into flight, we've begun to decrease thrust on the side boosters to minimize acceleration and loads on the Falcon Heavy structure. We've turned off one engine on each of the side boosters to decrease that.
Oh yeah, you can see.
Now our next major event coming up here in about 10 seconds.
Here.
Shutdown and separation
on the outside there, but there isn't now.
The view should be the side booster cameras on 2 sides and the center core in the middle.
Booster shutdown.
There go the boosters. This has gone well so far.
Over the cheering in the background. It's going on midnight, but a lot of people here.
Oh, look at that.
Side boosters have separated. They're getting ready for their burn back to Cape Canaveral. You can see on the left and right views, the side boosters have ignited. The center core continues under full power. Everything looking good on the Falcon Heavy. Next event coming up in about 15 seconds will be shutdown of the center core, followed by stage separation and ignition of the second
center
stage
core
engine.
is booking it.
Good views of the
10,000 kilometers per hour.
Under the thrust of 3 engines each, slowing down their velocity and coming back towards Cape Canaveral. We have shutdown on the center core.
11,000 kilometers per hour.
Confirmed.
She's booking it right now.
We have successful separation and ignition. We're coming up on
see Florida in the background of the
side boosters.
center core.
And we've heard the call out.
See the moon and the side
boost
boosters.
back shutdown. The center core, you can see, is not doing a boost back. It's headed downrange to the drone ship. Here comes fairing separation.
Cross-ranger nominal.
We have
Good fairing sep.
confirmation of the payload fairing separation. So far, 4 minutes, 17 seconds into flight. Second stage looking good, headed to low Earth orbit, carrying the 24 satellites. The side boosters have done their first boon, coming back to Cape Canaveral. The center core has separated and is beginning its long coast downrange to the drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. So at 4 minutes, 35 seconds and counting, everything looking good on Falcon Heavy.
Alright, so the thing to remember now is that the mission is going to proceed like any other Falcon 9s right now. So that if there's any failure with the boosters, it doesn't impact the main mission. Jeez, look at the Look at how steep that
Now
entry
those side
angle for
boosters are
the
making
center
their
core
way
is.
back. Their grid fins on all 3 boosters should be deployed.
Oh no,
and
that's
those are help guiding them to
no,
their
that's the
landing zones.
Never mind, that's
As
the
a reminder,
boosters.
today we will be attempting to recover all 3 of these first stages, and all 3 boosters are currently making their way home. In just a few minutes, the side boosters will execute an entry
That's a
burn followed by
really
a
long
landing
boost
burn,
back burn.
and the center core will do the will complete the same burns just a few minutes later. Both burns are used to slow the stage's speed down rapidly
still
before
burning.
landing.
At the time of separation, the side boosters were traveling slow enough to turn around and make their way back to land at our side-by-side landing pads. The center core is going too fast to efficiently return
I
to
think
the
they're still
Cape,
burning.
so we're using our autonomous drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, as we mentioned earlier. As a
I never heard a
reminder,
call
our drone
out.
ship is positioned twice as far offshore than normal, so we may not get visuals of landing tonight. Also coming up in a few minutes will be the
Falcon
call out
trajectory.
for second engine cutoff. So coming up in about a minute here, we're going to look for that side booster reentry burn to begin. Shortly after that, that should end about 20 seconds later.
Yeah, I took that back. They must have ended quite a while ago. They wouldn't have enough fuel.
You can see both of those boosters on the infrared camera on the left side of your screen.
Sorry for my chair.
Again, about 30 seconds until we expect those side boosters entry burn to begin. So keep an eye on the left side of your screen.
I wonder if NASA TV is going to have anything
About
better
10
than
seconds, we should see
SpaceX.
those side boosters reignite for their entry.
They usually
burn.
do. But it looks like they're just doing a restream of SpaceX's broadcast right at the moment.
Booster entry burn startup.
And we have confirmation that the entry burn has begun. And in about 15 seconds from now, we expect that to end.
There it is. Look at that.
Wow.
You can see it go from 1 engine to 3 engines.
Hear the crowd cheer behind me.
The boost, the
And
burns
that
follow
entry
what
burn
is
has
known as a
completed.
131
Note that
profile.
second engine cutoff and the center core will be landing almost at the same time. So we're going to have a few events in succession at about T plus 8 minutes and 21 seconds.
Today I learned that almost at the same time. It's like 3 minutes later.
Side booster FTS is safed.
Oh, you can see the grid fins. Look.
Stage 2 FTS is
Falcon is
safe.
in terminal guidance.
In about 20 seconds, we're going to look for that side booster landing burn to begin.
They are heavily leaning on the aerodynamics there.
About 10 seconds away.
You can see how cold the oxygen tanks are. See, look how black it is there. That's how cold the
Booster landing
that's
burn
from
startup.
it still being cold.
We've
Look
heard
at
the call
oxygen.
out for side booster landing burn startup, and there you see it on your screen.
Zoom out, zoom out.
See it coming towards our 2 landing pads. See those landing legs deployed. Incredible.
Well, one of them landed dead center. The other one was a little bit
Side
off.
booster landing. What an iconic view. We've also, at the same time, I believe we've had second engine cutoff at the same time.
Nice, they got those 2 back. They'll probably be flying in the next Falcon Heavy mission, and probably on some
As we mentioned earlier,
Falcon 9
the center
launches in
core
the
entry
meantime.
landing is going to be risky. During entry, it'll face more heating and dynamic pressure than we've ever experienced on Falcon 9 or
Seco?
Heavy flight before. Why, you ask? Because we have to lift the second stage higher and faster than other Falcon Heavy flights in order to have enough performance in it to execute 4 burns to all the different orbits. So coming up at T plus 9 minutes and 39 seconds, we should see the center core entry burn ending.
Center core entry burn.
Oh, we have the confirmation. Looks like that was the confirmation for it to begin. So we're a little bit off the timeline.
Center core entry burn shut down.
And we
That
have
was
just
not
heard the
long.
confirmation that center core entry burn has shut down, And now that the entry burn is complete, the center
I guess
core
it
is
was all
moving
right.
back about 20% faster than it was at the end of the Falcon Heavy 2 Arabsat entry burn.
First stage.
20% faster.
Now we're coming up, we're just about a minute away from that
If this
center
thing
core
makes it, it'll be a
landing burn
miracle.
beginning. And as we've been mentioning, this will be the most difficult landing that we've had to date. This will be a 3-engine burn. That center engine will start up first, and then 2 outer engines will start up as well for that landing burn. And we're just 30 seconds away from that center core landing. And it's no surprise that we do not have a live view of that center core as it's coming down, but it looks like we got a live view of the drone ship there. Of course, I still love you.
It's so far out, it's almost morning there.
If you're just now tuning in, we're just about 10 seconds away from that center core landing burn beginning.
I have a bit rate of about 4.
Stage 1 landing burn has started.
And we have confirmation that
Just
the
that it's
center
made
core
it this
landing burn
far
has
is
begun.
astonishing.
Let's see that coming down on Of Course I Still Love You.
Oh, she's a little off target.
Got a pretty good view. And as you can see on our screen,
It did not make it.
looks like our center core did not make it on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You tonight. Again, as we've been mentioning, this was the most challenging landing that we've had to date. And this is our secondary mission.
It got close,
so
though.
Our primary mission, we just heard the call out for a good orbit of our second stage. So we are actually just moments away from our first deployment of the evening for Oculus ASR, which was developed by students at Michigan Technological University. We will be passing beyond the Bermuda ground station, so there is a chance that telemetry may cut out a few seconds before deployment, in which case we won't be able to
They
see
could have
the
landed
satellite
that.
actually deploy on camera or get confirmation of a successful deployment until
Yeah, the
telemetry
center core is cursed, I
restored.
think.
Now we're just
That's
about
0
30
they've
seconds away
recovered.
from that deployment. So we'll listen into the nets
0
for
for
that
3.
confirmation.
First deployment coming up in a second. I'm not going to be able to stay around for the whole thing.
Looks like we still have that live view. Might have a chance to see this deployment live on camera. Again, we are waiting for the Oculus satellite deployment. And as we expected, looks like we lost that
Hang on.
live view.
Looking at the
So we
replay, it
will
looks
wait
like
to
it.
get some confirmation of that deployment, and we will update you guys in a few minutes later on in the webcast. We are now in between ground stations for the next few minutes with nothing to see. So we are going
It
to
looks
take
like
a
it,
quick break, but we will be leaving you with an animation that shows
It had
you
too much
where we
thrust
are
and it
throughout
like
the coast
revert.
maze.
It like
We will be back around T plus 20 minutes for our next set of deployments, and it's worth noting that since we won't acquire ground station coverage again until T plus 21 minutes, we are going to miss that first P-Pod 1 CubeSat deployment. See you back here in about 6 minutes.
All right, I probably won't be back. So it looks like the first state, the center core, from what I saw, which wasn't a lot, it looked like the it had too much thrust. So like it can't. It has a thrust weight ratio of over 1. In this case, a lot over 1, which means it can't. If it starts its engines too early, it doesn't have a chance to it has to hit 0 velocity right on the deck of the drone ship. Otherwise, it's just gonna either explode because it hits with too much speed, or do what I think we just saw, in which case it just flies off and hits in the ocean somewhere. And that's what I think happened. Of course, it's hard to tell, but that got really close to working. That's impressive. Alright, I think that's gonna be it for me tonight. It's 2:45 right now. if anyone really wants to watch the hours upon hours of deployments, they can watch it on SpaceX's stream. I'm gonna end it here. So yeah, see you tomorrow.